Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into what is honestly an unprecedented economic transformation, and one that is coming much, much sooner than most of us realize. We're basically standing right in the absolute center of what experts are calling the fourth industrial revolution. Now, for the past 200 years, economists have generally told us that automation, while, can be a bit painful in the short term for individuals, is ultimately great for society because it makes us collectively much wealthier. But suddenly we're forced to ask a pretty terrifying yet absolutely fascinating question. What happens when the machines don't just take over the physical heavy lifting, but the cognitive heavy lifting too?
To set the stage, we're starting with a pretty stark warning from the experts. And it highlights that while automation has historically been a net positive, this specific wave, the one targeting cognitive labor, presents a massive, immediate threat to the global workforce. Just listen to that phrasing, a real bloodbath for white-collar workers. Think about it. Everyone used to tell us, right, to make sure we learn to code or have our kids learn computer science. But AI has turned that advice entirely on its head because these systems can now write code, analyze dense data, and process complex information. It's like essentially everyone in the world is suddenly a programmer. And that completely devalues the traditional entry-level brain work that we all thought was totally safe.
Is this time different? Let's take a look at why a 250-year-old historical rule might suddenly be broken. So, economists have spent 2.5 centuries pointing to this concept called the lump of labor fallacy. It's basically the idea that when old jobs are automated away, human beings simply invent new, more complex tasks to replace them. And historically, we've been incredibly resilient. I mean, we automated 98% of farming over the centuries, and we just moved our efforts into brain work. But look at where we are right now. Over the past 15 years, algorithms have quietly become 2.5 times as efficient every single year. We're currently shifting from a world where humans are the bottleneck of the economy to one where AI is taking over the exact complex cognitive jobs we fled to back when farming was automated. So the huge question is, if the machines are coming for the brain work itself, where do we shift to next?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look at our hardware. The human brain is a magnificent biological machine, for sure, but it is capped at roughly 85 billion neurons. We literally cannot transcend that physical limitation. Think about it like this. Chimpanzees, they don't control humanity simply because our brains are more complex than theirs. But now, we're building computers that face absolutely zero biological limits. They can continuously scale their connections and process data at a volume that we couldn't even dream of. Unlike the physical tools we built during the Industrial Revolution, AI models transcend our biology, which really proves that this time, our monopoly on cognitive thought is genuinely being challenged.
Moving to Section 2, the white-collar bloodbath. This is where we get into the wild concept of computational complexity.
So, what actually defines the jobs that are going to disappear first? It all boils down to computational complexity. And honestly, it feels entirely backwards to us. Evolution gave humans this incredible computational hardware for walking, balancing, and picking things up with our fingers. Because of that millions of years of evolution, folding a basket of laundry is super easy for us. But for a robot, it's practically impossible right now. Our brains, however, are not naturally built for doing complex math or massive data processing. But AI systems are optimized for exactly that. So basically anything that doesn't involve moving physical atoms around, meaning physical labor is temporarily the safer bet, is being eliminated by AI at a truly staggering pace.
Now for Section 3, the crash of wages. Let's see how this intense cost efficiency hits home.
Because the economy always operates on efficiency and cost, this incredible computational power we're talking about translates directly to your paycheck. Say you're writing a report. It might take a human 2 hours to do and cost about $50. A generative AI system, it can knock that out in 20 seconds. Next year, it'll probably cost about 12 cents to run that prompt. And we're even seeing this in high-stakes fields like medicine, where an AI could perform diagnostic checks at literally a tenth of the cost of a human doctor and eventually surpass human quality entirely. If a system can generate the exact same cognitive output for actual pennies, the value of human labor is going to face extreme downward pressure. You might start out earning $50, then it drops to $5, and then, well, it becomes nearly impossible for a person to compete. Which brings us to this terrifying projection. We are looking at a scenario where global unemployment could spike by 10 to 20% in just the next 5 years. If cognitive tasks get fully automated and our doctors, programmers, and writers are forced to compete against software that's practically free, we're going to introduce a level of sudden, structural economic displacement that we have never, ever seen before in human history.
Now, whenever disruptions like this happen, politicians and economists immediately start talking about retraining.
We'll just turn the coal miners into software engineers. But the hard data shows that government retraining programs historically have a really dismal success rate, somewhere between 0 and 15%. It just hasn't worked. The only reason we even stretch for that answer is because we're desperate for a familiar, comforting solution. But if AI actually approaches AGI, artificial general intelligence, there aren't going to be any new human-exclusive jobs to switch people into. If the machines do everything better, there's literally nothing left to retrain for.
That takes us to Section 4, the AI monopoly problem. Let's talk about where all that wealth actually goes. Because if human labor gets completely devalued, all that wealth shifts entirely over to the capital side, to the folks who own the machines. And when you look at the step-by-step supply chain, it reveals just how incredibly vertically integrated and highly concentrated the AI market really is. You've got ASML in the Netherlands making the manufacturing machines, TSMC in Taiwan making the physical chips, NVIDIA in the US designing the architecture, and then companies like OpenAI buying them up to build the actual models. It's an unbelievable bottleneck, and it means that a tiny, tiny handful of corporate players control almost the entire future of global computing.
And the dangers of that kind of monopolization, they are immense. Training these cutting-edge models will very soon cost in the billions of dollars. Only a few megacorporations can even afford that massive fixed cost to enter the game, giving them unparalleled market power. If we just allow all this wealth to concentrate at the top, human GDP might actually decline, because everyday displaced workers simply won't have the income to buy the goods the AI is producing. The rich get richer, the rest get poorer. To fight this, some experts are arguing that we need a collective, nation-state-level moonshot effort, kind of like CERN in the physics world, to make sure these powerful systems benefit all of humanity, not just a few tech executives.
Okay, Section 5, Seed UBI to High Income. This is where we have to completely rethink survival.
To prevent a super dystopian future where extreme poverty lives right next door to extreme wealth, we have to rethink from the ground up how humans survive without selling their labor. Universal Basic Income, UBI, is the most common solution thrown around, right? But trying to implement that on a massive, national scale overnight is incredibly complex. We've just never done anything like it. That's why some experts are proposing a seed UBI. The idea is we start right now with something tiny, like just $10 a month. Why so small? Simply to build the societal infrastructure. We need to lay the pipes, so to speak, before the major disruptions actually hit. This seed approach gives us a runway. Then, as significant parts of the economy get disrupted, we can just turn the dial up on the financial support automatically because the whole system is already up and running.
But listen, we shouldn't just be aiming for bare survival. The ultimate goal is something called universal high income. Now, if we successfully align these wildly productive AIs to actually care for our material needs, working could become completely optional. We wouldn't just be scraping by on a basic subsistence income, because AI and robots would be producing everything so cheaply and efficiently, every single human's overall consumption and quality of life would just skyrocket. In theory, anyone could access basically any product or service they desire, completely decoupling human survival from human labor.
Which finally brings us to Section 6, the meaning challenge. What happens beyond survival? See, even if we totally solve the financial puzzle, break up the monopolies, and actually achieve this incredible age of abundance, we run headfirst into a really profound philosophical wall. This quote from an economics professor perfectly captures the existential dread of automation. He says, "If I know a machine can write much better economics papers, devise better lectures, can teach better than I, would I still want to do that? Honestly, my gut reaction is no. We spend years of our lives building up human capital, defining exactly who we are by our specific careers. If a machine can just get it cheaper, faster, and objectively better, our identity and our sense of purpose are deeply threatened. A UBI might solve the money problem, but it does absolutely nothing to solve the meaning problem."
So I want to leave you with this final thought. We are entering what is undoubtedly the most interesting, transformative time in human history. We really might be headed for an era of unimaginable abundance. But as this explainer reveals, the ultimate challenge won't just be surviving the economic transition or trying to compete with software models that work for pennies. The real underlying challenge is going to be figuring out exactly who we are when our jobs no longer define us. In a world where you don't have to do anything to survive, what will you choose to do to give your life meaning?